Before I start the video, I just want to say thank you to everyone who helped me reach 1,000 subscribers. We finally did it, and I finally got the community tab. And in honor of that, I'm going to play this special clip. And thanks again for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. This is truly awesome. I'm happy and humbled that anyone even cares about the content that I make, and I hope the future stuff will be just as good as the past. And with that out of the way, let's get back to the video. Renya of Darkness, the prequel manga to Lelouch of the Rebellion, features a character named Dash. He is one of the main antagonists of the story. In my review of that same story, I mentioned that Dash shares many qualities and character traits with Lelouch, and many fans naturally confuse them because if you look at the images of the characters, they look quite similar. But the question is, how similar are these characters? Are they really twins? Or is there something else more going on here? Now, obviously, they're not actually twins because they're from different time periods, but you know what I mean. In today's video, we are going to break down the lives of both Lelouch and Dash and answer this question once and for all. And this should be obvious, but there will be spoilers for Lelouch of the Rebellion and Renya of Darkness. And I also do some analysis from Lelouch of the Resurrection, so make sure you're at least familiar with that before we begin.
Just one moment.
Do you want
Even more.
Obviously.
See, I'm greed. I want everything you can think of.
Then I propose a deal.
Equivalent exchange. I'll give you
More.
awesome
Stuff.
if you
Please. Like,
Comment.
subscribe. Sorry about that interruption.
We're off! Let's hit the road!
Let's start with the history. Dash and Lelouch come from two different backgrounds. And I'm not just referring to the time period, which is true, but rather their home life, the people around them, where they were born, etc. Dash was a criminal with no stable family. In fact, we don't know much about his family. Not much is revealed. All we know is that he's been alone for a long time in his life. The only glimpse that we get of any family life for Dash was when he was living with Hatelia and her father, and they took him in despite knowing the fact that he was a criminal. Lelouch, on the other hand, was a prince and heir to the throne of Britannia. Granted, he wasn't the highest on that list, but he still was on it. And unlike Dash, Lelouch had a really good life. His only struggles were losing to Schneizel in chess, and that one incident that we learned in the picture drama where he fights over a plate. And that's really it. He was living a nice life. Now, what the two do share in common is how their comfortable family life ended and how it affected them. V2 killed Marion, and to protect Lelouch and Nunnally, Charles sent them to live in Japan in exile. From Lelouch's point of view, Charles seemed uninterested in Marion's death and exiled Lelouch and Nunnally as bargaining chips. And as Kato brilliantly pointed out, and by the way shout out to him, that when Marion died, that was the birth of the demon. Lelouch, while in Japan, vowed to destroy Britannia. In Dash's case, he was blackmailed to help out someone who ended up leading a revolt that killed so many innocent people, including his adoptive father. Dash ended up running away, and that led to the events which started his crusade to acquire the stones to bring Hatelia out of a coma. What's interesting is that both Dash and Lelouch went on their crusade for one person. There was one primary motivation. For Dash, it was Hatelia, who fell into a coma, and with Lelouch, it was Nunnally, who became blind as a result of Charles' Geass and unable to walk after being shot in the legs as part of the cover-up for Marion's death. Lelouch wanted to make a gentler world for Nunnally, and Dash wanted to wake Hatelia from her coma because he believed he was responsible for what happened to her father and the whole village and wanted to take responsibility through helping her out. So far, we see that Lelouch and Dash have similar backstories and similar motivations for what they're doing, but what about their abilities? The powers they have that help them achieve these goals. Lelouch has the power of Geass, which allows him to command anyone to obey his will. He just requires direct eye contact for it to work. There are other details about the ability, but for the sake of this video, I'm keeping it very brief and to the point. Dash's initial ability allowed him to drain the life force from those around him. Both characters developed their abilities to the point where neither one could control it. Dash's uncontrolled use of this Geass power put Hatelia into a coma, and Lelouch accidentally commanded Yuffie to kill all the Japanese people in the Special Administrative Zone of Japan. The origin of their abilities are quite similar. Lelouch got his from an immortal named C2, while Dash received his from what I believe to be the one that was the original holder of V2's code. At the time, he's called U2. The circumstances were different in that Lelouch was seconds away from dying, and C2 gave him the ability to save his life, and in case of Dash, he was merely escaping with Hatelia and ran into U2 on his way in the snow. To continue the comparison of these characters, I'm now going to talk about Lelouch of the Resurrection, and the reason why is because in that movie, Lelouch became a failed one since he inherited a code but didn't become a official immortal. And Dash, by the start of Renya of Darkness, also is a failed one. Now it's a little different because Lelouch took a code from someone he shouldn't have, and Dash just failed to inherit one from U2. Now because of that, each one has different abilities as failed ones. Let's start with Lelouch. Lelouch is able to grant Geass contracts, but as far as I can tell, he can't regenerate his body like C2 could if he got injured, which is standard for most immortals. But we know based on the picture drama that comes after Lelouch of the Resurrection, he doesn't seem to age much, because in that picture drama it takes place 10 years after the events. And I also speculate, since I never say this, that his ability to control his Geass is also a benefit of his new abilities. Remember that in the original series, after the situation with the Special Administrative Zone Japan, Lelouch had to wear a special eye contact so he couldn't accidentally give someone else a Geass command. But in the film, he's able to turn on and off with ease. Unlike Lelouch, Dash can regenerate his limbs as a failed one, but is unable to give out Geass contracts, except for Shiori, because apparently she's gifted or unique or surprised even him. So maybe it's possible Dash could give out Geass contracts, but no one's ever been able to receive them. But that's pure speculation. What we do know is that Dash can create nightmares, which are humans with an enhanced trait. And not only can he create them, he has control over them. For example, if they try to fight him, he has a failsafe where he can use their powers against them. And this also applied to the power that Dash gave Renya. And speaking of that power, apparently Dash is able to implant a trap into someone, in this case it was Renya, that would trigger if someone tried to give him a Geass contract. I'm not sure if this is related to turning people into nightmares. I also don't know the practical applications of such a power or if it's ever explored further. The last thing I want to talk about in relation to their abilities is that it's interesting to note that Dash described his abilities as something that messed with the nervous system of a human being, which is exactly how Lelouch described his as well when talking to C2 about what happened to Jeremiah. We have so far looked at the backstory of these characters, the motivations, and their abilities. What about their design, their behavior, their personality? Well, that's the next thing we're going to look at. Now, this is not the easiest comparison to do because Lelouch has many personalities and identities. We have Lamperouge, the high school student, Zero, the leader of the Black Knights, the evil Emperor Lelouch, and his true self, Lelouch v. Britannia. So it's hard to know for sure which aspect of his characters are the real him or are none of them. That's a whole nother discussion that I'm going to have at another time. Dash, by comparison, only has one character trait because it's just him, so it's much easier to figure him out. Now, when you compare the two, they have many similar qualities. For example, they're both well-read, quite intelligent, they're into the theatrics, they're good leaders, they sometimes display a little bit of sociopath tendencies. When many die, they don't seem to really care too much. With Lelouch, though, it's not clear if he's a hero, anti-hero, or villain. Oh, and by the way, that video on that topic is coming up soon. Stay tuned for more details. But with Dash, it's clear that he's mostly a villain in the story. I say mostly because he's trying to bring back Hatelia from a coma. He did save Renya's life and eventually helped out his group later on in the story. But to call the rest of his actions evil would just be an understatement. On a simpler note, Dash and Lelouch shared many mannerisms, especially in their arm and hand gestures, and both have similar reactionary faces when things go wrong. And from a design point of view, they look quite similar, even in the way that they dress. Although Dash has longer hair, they share the same eye color and facial design. That's the reason why many people confuse them as the same individual. No comparison video between Dash and Lelouch can be complete without talking about C2, because she's an important part of both of their lives. Although with Dash, it's not entirely clear what their relationship is. All we know is that they had a past, and they clearly had some kind of strong connection because when he died, she was crying. She also made a similar speech at the end of Renya of Darkness about the consequences of Geass. It was the same that she said about Lelouch when he died while she was riding in the carriage. I'm not going to go into too many details about Lelouch's relationship with C2 since I've already covered it in several videos, but you know it's way more comprehensive than Dash's. The last thing I want to talk about in context to Dash and Lelouch is their perspective on life and what they strive to achieve. Lelouch lives for the future while Dash is stuck in the past. Dash has no desires for a better world, mostly due to his cynical and nihilistic view on it. At one point he even tells Renya that the world is phasing him out of existence since he's a failed one. The only thing that matters is Hatelia. That's the last truth. And that he's alive. Everything Dash did was just to see Hatelia again and to make up for his mistakes, where Lelouch towards the end of the series worked towards a better future for everyone. And despite the different views on the world, both died satisfied with accomplishing their goals. So when looking at all the facts, Lelouch and Dash have a similar look, but their backstories, their goals, abilities are all quite unique. But there is enough overlap that I can see why people would still confuse one for the other. And it does beg a question that I've been thinking about since I read Renya of Darkness, which is, why on earth did they make Dash look like Lelouch? Well, it was a marketing decision. Think about it. Could there be a Geass story without Lelouch? Just go online and you'll see people go back and forth on this very topic. So what they did with Renya of Darkness is that they made a character who looked and shared many qualities of Lelouch to better help sell the manga. I'm hoping that with Zia the Recapture, we're finally going to have a story which doesn't have Lelouch at all in it, and to finally get this question answered. And on a more lighter note, with Geass RE Code coming out, can we please make Dash a character in that game? I want to have a team with him and Lelouch. And with that, we have come to the end. If you enjoy the content, please like, share, and comment on the video. Check out my blog and anime streaming guide for April. I'll have the link in the description below. Let me know in the comment section below if you think that Dash and Lelouch were very similar characters, not similar, did I miss anything about Dash's character or Lelouch's, did I get something wrong? And remember, the world is not a dark place, and tomorrow will be a good day. Thanks for watching, and thanks again for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers.